This is not just another retro motorcycle rumor. Because if the 2026 Honda CB1100EX becomes reality, it may represent something far bigger than a model revival. It could be the last time we see a true, air-cooled, big-bore Japanese classic built without compromise. For years, the CB1100 carried a quiet reputation. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't chasing lap times. It was Honda proving that heritage still mattered. Inspired by the original CB lineage that began with icons like the legendary CB754, the CB1100 stood as a reminder of what made classic Japanese motorcycles globally respected in the first place: balance, refinement, and mechanical honesty. But times changed. Stricter emissions regulations, shifting market demand, and the industry's rapid move towards smaller engines and electrification slowly pushed large, air-cooled four-cylinders into extinction. When Honda discontinued the CB1100 in several markets, many believed that chapter was permanently closed. And yet, the retro market in 2026 tells a different story. Across Europe and Asia, heritage machines are no longer niche. Riders in their 30s and 40s are seeking authenticity. They want analog presence in a digital world. Brands have responded with modern classics that look old but feel contemporary. The question is whether Honda is ready to return to the purest form of that formula. If a 2026 CB1100EX emerges, it would not simply be nostalgia. It would need to justify itself in today's environment.
First, the engine. The original CB1100 was defined by its air-cooled inline-four. That visual identity, cooling fins, exposed headers, symmetrical proportions, is central to its appeal. However, meeting modern emission standards with a large air-cooled engine is increasingly complex. If Honda were to revive the CB1100EX, subtle modernization would be unavoidable. Refined fuel injection mapping, advanced catalytic systems, and possibly discrete oil cooling enhancements hidden within a classic silhouette. But the character must remain untouched. A true big-bore classic isn't about peak horsepower. It's about torque delivery, smooth throttle response, and mechanical refinement. The CB1100 never tried to dominate spec sheets. It delivered a dignified riding experience, stable, predictable, and quietly powerful. And that may be exactly why it still matters. Second, positioning. In 2026, the retro battlefield is crowded. Mid-displacement machines dominate because they are lighter, cheaper, and easier to regulate. Large displacement heritage bikes are rarer and therefore more emotional purchases. If Honda reintroduces the CB1100EX, it would not compete on price, it would compete on legacy. This would be Honda signaling confidence. A flagship classic above the CB650 class would create a halo effect across the entire retro lineup. It would say that Honda still believes in traditional inline-four craftsmanship, even as the industry evolves. But here is where things become interesting. Would Honda keep it purely traditional or subtly future-proof it? Modern riders expect ABS refinement, traction control, and improved suspension tuning. The challenge is integrating these systems without visually disrupting the machine's timeless proportions. A successful 2026 CB1100EX would likely follow the quiet modernization philosophy. Modern underneath, unmistakably classic on the surface. And that balance is extremely difficult to achieve. Because once a heritage motorcycle feels too digital, it stops being a heritage motorcycle. Which leads to the bigger question: could this be the final opportunity? With tightening global regulations and the accelerating shift toward alternative powertrains, the window for large air-cooled four-cylinder engines is narrowing. If Honda were to release a 2026 CB1100EX, it might not just be a revival, it might be a farewell statement, a respectful closing chapter for traditional big-bore Japanese classics. Not loud, not dramatic, just dignified. And that is exactly what the CB1100 has always represented. So the real discussion isn't whether Honda can build it. It's whether the market still values what it stands for. Because if riders truly want authenticity, not just retro styling but mechanical soul, then a modern CB1100EX would not feel outdated. It would feel necessary. The final true big bore classic? Perhaps. But if Honda does bring it back, one thing is certain: it won't be chasing trends. It will be preserving a legacy. And in 2026, that might be the boldest move of all. Would you choose a modern high-tech performance machine or a refined big bore classic built the old way? Let me know below, because if this legend returns, it may be the last of its kind.